Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, and welcome to the launch event of the Digital Risk Management e-learning platform for mediators. My name is Maria Varikaite. I work at the Mediation Support Unit at the United Nations Department of Political and Peacebuilding Affairs. I'll be facilitating today's event, and I'm glad to see you all join us today. In the past year, UN DPPA's Mediation Support Unit, CMI, Martti Ahtisaari Peace Foundation, and CyberPeace Institute worked together to assess specific digital risks related to the increased use of digital technologies in mediation. As the result of this reflection, we have developed an e-learning platform for mediation practitioners to raise awareness and build their capacity to mitigate and manage them. We'll introduce this platform to you in the second part of the event. But before that, I would like to introduce to you our panel, including very experienced mediators and cybersecurity experts who will share their insights about increasing digital risks in mediation and their experiences in addressing them. Our today's panel will include Mr. Janne Tallis, CEO of CMI, Martti Ahtisaari Peace Foundation, Ms. Teresa Whitfield, Director of the Policy and Mediation Division at the United Nations Department of Political and Peacebuilding Affairs, Mr. Stéphane Duggan, Chief Executive Officer of the CyberPeace Institute, Ms. Juanita Mian Hernandez, member of the United Nations Standby Team of Senior Mediation Advisor, and Dr. Camino Kavanagh, who works as a Senior Digital Advisor at the Policy and Mediation Division at the United Nations Department of Political and Peacebuilding Affairs. Thank you so much for finding time to join us, and welcome. To start us off, I would like to ask our mediation experts in the panel to share their insights about changing mediation environment in relation to emerging digital risks. As increased use of digital technologies had added new dimensions to traditional mediation challenges, what are the different technology-related risks that you and your teams have encountered during the different phases of mediation processes? And what approaches have you taken to address these ongoing technology-related risks in mediation? Now I would like to open our floor to our first panelist, Mr. Tallis. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. And I really would like to take this opportunity to thank our very close partners, MSU and the CyberPeace Institute, for working on this very important project. And good to see many panelists that I know, and being a member of this high-level panel, or this highly qualified panel, is always a pleasure. I have 3 points I would like to make, and they are taking kind of CEO's perspective, a little bit from the strategic perspective, not looking only on the kind of the technical aspects. The 3 points about the risks. I worked before as a cyber ambassador of cyber diplomacy, and I talked very often with companies. And I think the point you learn from the kind of the business world, that the digital risks, cyber risks, have migrated from the desk of Chief Information Officer to the CEO's desk. They are now strategic risk. And I think this is something that it is a crucial point. And I think in the peace mediation, in this mediation field, we are not quite there. And that's something that I want to emphasize. That means that what we do, that these things that we discuss are not digital and technical issues. They are highly political issues. What we clearly see now, and this is my first point, I think the most important point, if you look at the ICRC event, it is a case in point, what we have. Clearly, the fact that there are more and more actors that would harm our community of peace builders. There are more tools available to harm us. There are people and tools to use against us. And I think that's the second point. And the third point, really clearly, there's inherent lack of skill. We are good doers. We might not always think of kind of the digital risk that we're encountering. And I think really it is my first point to consider the digital risk as a strategic risk for the organization, for our field, because that is something that that we need to get across, and that's my first and the most important point on that this is and this is why we are having this discussion. And I think my second point also come from the CEO perspective is that I think it's good to ask what is the most sensitive part of what we have. What is that we really need to defend and secure the best? What is that is at risk most? As I said, we have a strategic risk, we have reputational risk and all that, but the real thing, and what also sets us apart a little bit from the business world, there is a risk of people we work with in the conflict communities. So we have something we have absolutely need to secure and keep because if this information leaks, there are kind of those people who work with us in the local communities, if their information, and that is more and more the risk we are facing, and that's something that we have to keep. My second point, we have to keep that at the forefront. It is not. It means we have to look at the methods and the techniques and the systems that we have, but also it is paramount that we look at the capacity building of those people who are at risk, that they know what they are doing, and that's something we clearly need to be thinking. And I think it's important that these what we have now produced will be read widely among those groups and be understood. But I think the second point being that this is what is most at risk. I'm happy to take reputational risk, but I'm not happy to put our collaborators at risk in conflict societies. My third point is something, it's kind of pet peeve of mine. It's just kind of getting a little bit beyond purely technical. What I am very concerned about in this industry, in the peace building industry, is the increasing polarization that the digital technologies are driving. That is really reshaping the conflicts and making it much more. If you look at the Horn of Africa, the discussions we have had stuff that is quite new. What I've said, that the next Radio Rwanda will be digital. It will not be a radio. And this is something that we see in the societies we work with, and also at home, the polarization at home. We are the people, the kind of the mediators that we work with the shades of gray. And it becomes more and more difficult if the digital world kind of implicitly pushes us in a black and white world. There are good guys and the bad guys always. And that's something that I'm concerned at the very, and you can see that come across and I think it's not only the societies where work in the conflict, but also at home, that we have to more and more deal with these kind of issues. But that is, in short, what I see as the kind of the main risks, or from the kind of the CEO, from the kind of bird's eye perspective, not getting the technical details. Thank you.
Many thanks, Mr. Tallis, for your insightful remarks from your CEO's perspective. Very useful. Let me now turn to Ms. Whitfield, who will briefly share her observations about the new dimensions to traditional mediation challenges from the UN perspective. Ms. Whitfield, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Maria, and it's great to be with you all this morning, this afternoon, and welcome to everybody. Thank you for joining us. I'll speak a little bit about where we've come to this work from the UN, and specifically from the Mediation Support Unit. We've been working together with a number of internal and external partners on the issue of the impact of digital technologies on conflict and resolution mediation for about 4 years. In 2019, we launched the Toolkit on Digital Technologies and Mediation with the HD Centre, and we've since continued to promote and explore the safe and efficient use of technologies to complement more traditional mediation techniques and formats. COVID-19, obvious to everybody, of course, accelerated the use of digital technologies as mediators were not able to travel and meet with the parties. I think it's fair to say that it accelerated the uptake of our work with some mediators who might otherwise have come to see its relevance a bit more slowly. So we welcome that in the midst of an incredibly difficult couple of years. Experience under the pandemic demonstrated to many who might not have thought of this before that digital technologies can bring significant efficiencies and opportunities to mediation efforts. We really believe that these innovations are here to stay as we move to more hybrid models, combining in-person and online interactions as part of complex mediation processes. And some of our job is to distinguish exactly what needs to happen in person and what can we do that can benefit from being online. But at the same time, the dual use nature of digital technologies has meant that their use involves risks to both conflict parties and mediators, as Jana has just been talking about. These risks are related to the inherent vulnerabilities in the technologies, low digital literacy and hygiene, mishandling of sensitive digital information and personal data, and a lack of awareness of institutional policies on data protection or social media management. We have had to recognize that many mediators and their teams are often not fully equipped to assess and manage risks, which can assume distinct forms in the context of very sensitive political processes. And this is something we need to be taking very seriously. At this point, we don't think there's any going back. The use of digital innovation and hybrid models in mediation processes will likely continue to grow. So ignoring and failing to proactively address these new forms of risks is not an option. We have to address them. First off, we recognize that we need to invest in staff capacity, with the end being to reduce the risk for those we work with in conflict-affected societies. A risk management mindset guided by the principle of do no harm is required to determine which technologies should be used when, where, and why during different phases of the mediation process and in accordance with the overall strategy. Mediators and their teams need to increase their digital literacy and deepen awareness of digital safety and security issues associated with technologies. As we've been working on these issues, we've been incredibly lucky to join up with CMI, Martti Ahtisaari Peace Foundation, and the CyberPeace Institute to develop the digital risk management e-learning platform for mediators, which we're so pleased to be launching today. I'm really excited to use the new platform myself and hope it will be a useful contribution in the promotion of the safer use of technologies in mediation and beyond. But a bit of finally, just a kind of broader point. I think we recognize, of course, that cyber and information security and digital hygiene are relevant to any number of other fields and across our own personal and professional use of technologies, and that there are other general digital risk resources that are available out there. But we also strongly feel that there are certain digital risks specific to mediation. This e-learning platform therefore offers tailored content promoting critical thinking about digital risk management in mediation. It's a unique feature, as we can often find it hard to come by learning tools specifically designed for our profession, and I commend it to all of you to poke around and see what you can find and learn from it. Thank you very much, Maria.
Thank you so much, Teresa, for your valuable insights. Very useful. Now I would like to ask Ms. Juanita Millan Hernandez to take the floor and to share her experience from a practitioner's perspective. Juanita, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and thank you all for being here and for having me. Well, complementing what has been said, I think digital technologies are an important part of negotiation and mediation processes. A well-prepared team will use all technology available to prepare for the negotiations and to protect the negotiations and the negotiation space. So technology is key to effective in-person mediation and negotiation, from conflict analysis to map design, to discourse analysis, to actor mapping. The use of technology, I think, has enriched the negotiation capacity of parties and mediators. Of course, parties and mediators, especially in track 1, are very protective of the information, and the confidentiality is key throughout the negotiation process. And for specific issues, in many places, parties only relies on direct human interactions. I myself, remember in my previous job, had to travel with one sealed envelope from one country to another one, show it to the decision maker, then get the feedback, get a new envelope, and fly back to another country to, to show the results and the decisions. So in many places, people still rely on all times mediation and negotiation processes because of the risk of losing information, as Dan was mentioning. Parties and mediators are usually under a lot of pressures and always concerned about losing information, being hacked, being spied by their counterparts. And in many negotiation settings that I have worked on, security experts will check every day the rooms of the negotiations or the offices of the parties for bugs or listening devices, all to make sure that the negotiation space was secure. So security of the information is key in track one negotiations, and many parties use different tools, but the important part is to learn how to use those tools. I also remember in my previous job that we used to have very unique USB devices with your digital or specific codes in order to secure the information, or that the final drafts that were prepared were done in one computer that was not connected to any source of internet, so it cannot be hacked. So information is always a very important concern from a negotiation part for parties, and therefore the awareness and knowing the advantages and disadvantages of these tools and knowing when and how to use them is paramount in the new times of the negotiation field. On the other hand, I think digital technologies are more and more being used as an instrument to amplify the voices of women, youth, and minorities. Technology has allowed us to hold consultations with broad numbers of participants to listen and how citizens think, know, and what they want from negotiation processes. Digital technologies have allowed us or allow me, for example, to support processes on the other side of the world and have this kind of meeting as we are having today. Also to run trainings with women from all around the world. We just finished one on ceasefires and many other benefits of technology. So I believe that, and as Teresa was saying, technology is here to stay, and it's our role to learn more about it and how to continue promoting the safe and efficient use of technologies to complement the mediation formats. I think that by raising awareness, we can mitigate the risk of digital technologies, and by learning approaches and techniques to protect our work, we can contribute better to peace efforts. And I think this, especially this e-learning platform, is a unique feature that we will all benefit from in our profession, and especially in track one negotiations. So thank you for this, and that's it. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Juanita. It was fascinating to hear a few examples from your practitioner's perspective. Now I would like to turn our attention to the cybersecurity aspect of this discussion, and would like to ask Stepan Jogan to step in and tell us a little bit more. What are the key digital risks are expected during 2022, and what are the potential effects on the work of mediators, and how they can be mitigated? If you can recommend us any common practices or tools, that it would be also much appreciated. Mr. Jogan, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and it's really very exciting to see that our common effort is leading to the deployment today of this platform that we really hope is going to be helpful for the community. Thanks for giving me the floor with a very simple question: how to solve this? So let's try to see what we can share. I think I want to build on what has been said before by the colleagues. The landscape in which the mediator community is acting changed quite a lot, and the cyber angle of this change is a complex one, in the sense that saying cyber, saying digital doesn't make really any sense, because there's so many aspects to it that having a solution for each of these aspects requires you to really, almost slice it in different subtopics. I mean, the mediator community needs to understand the cyber challenge from the point of view of threats, of a threat landscape. Who is trying to target them? With what means? With what intent? What kind of information are these attackers after? Are they facing criminal groups? Are they facing state-sponsored actors? Are they facing criminal groups working for states? And all of this should inform the resilience strategy and the capacity building for these groups, mediators, in order to be more secured and more conscious of the fact that they could be targeted because the data that they host has a specific value. So that's one angle of the cyber problematic. The second angle is understanding cyber as a field where the conflict that is under mediation, that the activity that is done is perpetrated. So it's really to understand the technological stack of the problematic in order to be in capacity to understand a situation in a holistic way. Because not having the capacity, the skill, the understanding of what is happening, I would say, under the carpet of the internet, in fact, creates blind spots in which mediators have to work, and that's quite problematic for any efficient activity, and for the information that you need to have in this kind of conflict. I would say that's the second cyber angle. The third one is understanding cyber as an ecosystem, in which ecosystem of norms, of laws, of international agreements, of domestic implementation of cybersecurity strategy, of cyber standards, the conflict is taking place. The activity of the mediators are taking place. And you see these three angles are cyber, but very different. It's very different skills and knowledge that you need to have to defend yourself against the threats, or to be in capacity yourself to investigate the cyber angle of a conflict, or at least to engage with partners and to assess the information that they give you. Is this correct? To provide, some feedback and some guidance. And then the third one is, in which context do you operate to understand the challenges in terms of digital governance and activation of international instruments. So we're really happy to share, it's the first block. It's not going to solve everything, but at least the first block of knowledge. We really believe into collective knowledge in this. So what is learned by the community is put on the platform, and that this platform can help the community to grow, to grow its knowledge and its capacity. It's very fluid. Should never think that we're going to produce something that is going to solve it, because it's very, very fluid environment. It changes on a daily basis in terms of the technology, the threats, the usage. And I would say advice to be given is to never forget that at the end of the day, this activity, these cyber challenges have an impact on human life. And it's always the good way to look at the threats and how to create knowledge and capacity for the mediators. Because it was reminded through the ICRC case, but there's a lot of the other cases that tells us the same story, is understanding the value of the data that are attacked, or the value of the system that is attacked from the point of view of what is happening to the human beings, is always going to help the mediator community to put in place the right structure, tools, knowledge to address the problematic. It's not about understanding how computer works, it's about understanding how the cyber landscape and the various challenges are impacting communities. So I'm very, very pleased that we could participate to the setup of this e-learning platform, and we are very welcoming comments and ideas to make it better. Thank you for giving me the floor. Thank you.
Many thanks, Stefan. I found it fascinating, and as I hope, I'm sure our audience as well. Now I would like to open the floor to Dr. Camino Kavanagh for overall reflection of what has been said and discussed so far, and for her further insights. Thank you, Camino.
Thank you, Maria. It's a real pleasure to be with you all today. I have had the pleasure of working on this, the development of the platform from the outset, in my role as consultant with the Department of Political and Peacebuilding Affairs and its Policy and Mediation Division. So it's a pleasure to be here, and it's a pleasure to have worked with Yanis's team and Stefan's team on this, and also to have been able to work with people like Juanita as we develop the platform. But three things, I guess, I would take away from the initial discussion would be perceptions of risk, people at risk, and processes at risk. So if we look at perceptions of risk, this is where Yana really highlighted this emphasis on raising the issue to the strategic level, and the importance of that focus in order to be able to provide not only the attention, but also the resources that are required to actually be able to implement some of the issues that we're discussing here today, but also to be able to make something like this platform more sustainable in the future. People at risk, I think each of you have also mentioned that people are critical, and technologies can place mediators, their teams, and the people that they engage with directly and indirectly at risk on a constant basis. So being able to manage that and mitigate those risks requires a significant amount of awareness raising, capacity building, and so forth. This in turn can, if that capacity and awareness and mitigation strategies are not in place, that also places the processes that mediators engage with at significant risk. And since Janne and Teresa and Stefan and Juanita have very much emphasized the fact that mediators work very much in a gray zone where things are not black and white. This becomes extremely complicated when you actually start delving into the details. There are risks relevant to data, risks relevant to the normative issues that Stefan mentioned. And this brings me to that last point in terms of really understanding the normative context within which mediators work in. This applies not only internationally or regionally, but also very much the domestic context within which everybody is working. And I think this then brings me to the platform and the approach that was taken in developing the platform. So it's very much based on a critical thinking approach to mediation and digital risk management. Very much understanding the lessons or the experiences that mediators are witnessing on a daily basis. Those lessons that have been taken up over the year and transformed into small little scenarios through which digital risk can be understood. I think one of the principal objectives has been to also bridge that gap, and this brings me back to what Yannis mentioned on that more strategic perspective, bridge the gap between information security experts and mediation experts, which is absolutely critical. And we've been very lucky to have worked with information security experts and cybersecurity experts from the UN, from CMI and CPI in the development of this, and also to engage those in the validation workshops and in basically every step of the way that we've been working on for the past few months. I think this bridging the gap between these different communities can help develop that really critical understanding that Stefan mentioned relating to this technology stack and understanding how that actually works and how different levels of that stack can be put at risk or can themselves present risk to mediators. And for info security people and cybersecurity people to better understand the needs of the mediation community and the types of risks that they themselves face and that the communities that they work with that can face as well. And evidently, last point I mentioned, the core element of this is the human-centric element. Right from the beginning, this has been critical to the development of the platform. So thank you very much, Maria. It's been a pleasure to be here today, and it's been a real pleasure to engage with all of you.
Many thanks, Camila. You make very important points, and just because of limited of time, we won't be able to discuss them in much detail, but really looking forward to having future discussions on this topic. And I think it's a perfect segment for our second part of this event. The time has come to take a closer look into the e-learning platform and that we're officially launching today. And I would like to give the floor to Aino Pirtola from CMI to share a quick intro video with us and walk us through the key features of the platform. Aino, over to you.
Mediators work in volatile contexts where the level of trust is low and political and security risks are high. Digital technologies and online forms of engagement are increasingly important to peace processes and mediation. They bring clear opportunities and many efficiencies to the field, but also introduce new risks. Unprotected systems and networks, as well as poor cyber hygiene practices, can affect the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information critical to mediation efforts. This can place mediators, the conflict parties, and peace processes overall at risk. However, mediation practitioners can increase their awareness of these risks and minimize them. This e-learning platform presents basic elements of information security and digital risk management to help you identify risks relevant to the mediation effort, particularly people, technology, and information. The harms these can pose to all involved in the mediation process itself, and how you, your team, and your organization can mitigate these risks. Join our growing community of practice on digital risk management in mediation. Learn more at mediation-digitalrisk.org.
Okay, thank you very much for listening and watching to the video that we had produced for the introduction of the course on digital risk management in mediation. My name is Aina Pirtola, and I'll just quickly walk you through some of the key features of the platform that we developed, and after I will share you the link in the chat so that each one of you can also go and log into the platform and see it yourself, and then hopefully become a student and go through the contents and learn more about digital risk management in the context of peace mediation. So first of all, the platform itself, you can already see the URL for the platform here, which brings you the login page. The platform itself is quite intuitive. Once you log in, you will get access to all the contents that we have provided you. And in the mind of digital risk management, we also use two-factor authentication in order to log into the platform with Google Authenticator. So please bear in mind that we also try to make the platform as secure as possible for the students that will use the course. And the platform itself, once logging in, it's as said, very intuitive to use. On the left-hand side, there's a table of contents that can be used for navigating the course. On the top right, there are a few icons, one for search, one for chat, one for feedback, and then for settings. And the course itself is built around scenarios. And basically, the student who logs into the platform will go through all these scenarios, which are meant to provoke critical thinking when it comes to digital risk and peace mediation context. So first, the student will have to think a bit, respond to the questions, either multiple choice questions or open-ended questions, and then we'll provide additional information on the theme or the topic of the scenario, how to mitigate risks that were presented in the scenario, and then also some further advice, maybe some further readings and so forth. Just quickly running through you one of the scenarios or one of the questions. So these will be the sort of looks for a multiple choice question. And what we did here is that there are no right or wrong answers. The student will get no points. There's no evaluation because we want to, as said, provoke critical thinking. But the answers are evaluated, or we provide information on the risk levels of it. So either the responses are either low, medium, or high risk options when it comes to the scenario at hand. After we'll provide, as said, some further information on why the selected options are on the given risk level that we provide, and then a bit more explanation on what the scenario is about. All in all, we do provide quite a lot of content, lots of insights on the topic, but what we do is that the contents are provided in a very clear and concise manner, leveraging also different visual elements, infographics and pictures that are meant to provide some additional information and put the key points in a more concise and a visually appealing way. In the end of the course, there's also a section for critical resources that we highly recommend every student will take a look at. And here, as you can see on the left-hand side table of contents. There are different categories for these critical resources, and this is basically a list of additional contents that the student can then look into if there are some questions that we don't reply to, or there's some additional support that the student would like to get after going through the course itself. But last, and maybe most importantly, what we obviously wish is that we will get feedback on the course, as we want to continuously keep on developing the contents and the learning experience for the student. So please do share your comments and share your feedback either at the end of the document or using the button that I have circled with the red circle on the top right of the platform itself. And as said, I'll now share, this was just a quick overview on the platform and the course itself, and I'll now share the link to the chat so that after this session, each one of you can take a look at the course and hopefully become a student, and then share also feedback so that we can keep up with the work and then provide good quality content when it comes to digital risk management for peace mediators. But now I will stop sharing my screen and give the floor back to Maria. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Aina, for a useful presentation, and I hope everybody finds a great experience going through the platform. Before I see we still have a little bit of time, so before I open back up the floor to everyone for a little bit further of a discussion, perhaps Camino would like to come in and say a few words about the platform.
Yeah, thank you, Maria. Yeah, I think one of the things that Aino just mentioned there that I'd like to re-emphasize the fact that the content will be updated. This is very much a starting point. It's a platform, it's not a one-off. We're hoping that this will develop into a really critical resource for mediators moving forward, and hopefully over time ensure the engagement of a community of practitioners that basically provide input on a regular basis to the continuing development of the platform. And I think that will be key. So yeah, definitely feedback is critical, and then that continued engagement through the cyber mediation network, and bringing in more people from the info security community and so forth. Thanks, Maria. And thanks, Aino.
Thank you so much, Aino and Camino. As I said, a few couple minutes, so I would like to open the floor to all panelists. If you have any brief remarks about the platform, its significance to our field of work, and or if you have any related remarks to our audience and participants, the floor is yours. Yes, Yanni.
Thanks, Maria. I think two important points. Continuing Camino's point, I think this is what we're doing. It's not about systems. It's about human beings, and it's about training, and that's why this platform is important. So I think that is the crucial point. The second point, and I think that might have not been said as clearly, but I think my reading in Camino is this is the kind of partnership exercise of partnerships, and this is an area when the kind of civil society organizations, international organizations cannot work alone. We have to have private companies and companies working with us, and that is a crucial partnership. And I'm very happy, for example, the CMI has partnered with the F-Secure, and they are working with us. And I think this is something that we need to be all mindful, and I hope this will further enrich the e-learning environment, and we get more feedback not only from the practitioners, but really that we get the companies, the enterprises that are really at the forefront of the digital transformation, that they would actually be involved also in this. And I'm very happy that the CMI has this kind of privileged partnership with the F-Secure, and that's a good example. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Mr. Tallis. Any other panelists would like to take the floor? Yes, Teresa.
Thank you very much. Just from a slightly different angle, I was also going to underline the issue of partnership and just saying how from the UN, as our work on this area and other forms of innovation that we're applying to kind of broader work on conflict prevention as well as mediation, how critical the partnerships have been across the board in terms of with NGOs, with the private sector, with academics, we've been greedy about learning, greedy, but also quite humble, some of us who are coming from a very low base on some of these issues, about learning and partnering and working with others. And I suspect there are many of our partners, not just the two key partners for this project on the panel, but others on the call, and just to say how enriching and exciting and important that partnership has been to our work in this area. So that's been great. My other point was, I think one of the real benefits of this platform is it's unintimidating, and that's really important. It isn't that it's, you know, it's non-judgmental about you get it, and there's no right or wrong answers. And by poking around in it and reading the case studies, there's a lot to be learned kind of almost just passively by reading the case studies and recognizing the dilemmas and going through the questions, so that it isn't, I really just encourage people to sort of not think, you know, it's useful for us in all our work across the board. And it's quite fun and interesting to poke around in. So I encourage it. But I also have a plea, which is to people to spread it widely, because it's useful for the field and all of us working in this, and it's free access and useful. So I think it's really important that we all of us panelists and the participants on this call, I kind of would just ask to use your networks to kind of send it out, because this is, you know, this is freely available, and it's just useful across the field for as many people to improve their management of these risks as possible. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Teresa. Much appreciated. Stefan, I see your hand up.
It's going to be very short. Sharing is caring, sharing is caring, sharing is caring. So no, really, it's about having this as a living tool. Sadly enough, and I guess all of us in our career, we've been involved in projects where you deliver something. You know, there's an energy, there's something that is really driving an initiative. A lot of time is linked to knowledge. And then if it does not, if it's not cared for, if it's not managed, if you don't create new partnership around this, sadly enough, it dies out. So we have something very good here that is timely to a problematic that is critical. And it's all of us to share it, make it live, talk about this, be inventive with new partnership, and also be honest for the feedback and be really transparent and accept what works, what doesn't work, to give it a space to improve. So sharing, sharing, sharing.
Excellent. Thank you so much. Camina.
Yes, I think one thing that I'd like to flag is that one of the things that we did bear in mind is that not all organizations have a very strong institutional structure around them, and they don't necessarily have info security experts or cyber security experts. So what we've also tried to do is collect those resources where that provide that kind of assistance. So there are several help desks that are emerging, or support tools and platforms that are emerging to support smaller and non-governmental organizations in particular. And I think taking a look at those, seeing if we're missing any would, I think, be very useful. There are a number of entities, organizations, including CPI, that do provide support to organizations that may be at risk from malicious cyber attacks, etc. And so I think being able to build up that body of resources would be quite important.
Many thanks, Camina, for worth noting the resources available. Juanita, just want to make sure, do you have anything for the audience, or we should move on?
Yeah, just a sense that I think one of the challenges will be how to engage, conflict parties that are, in clandestine settings to join and to be more aware of these things. How to make sure we reach out to those who are skeptical of the use of technology, or don't see the use or are afraid. I think that will be one of the challenges for the platform, but also how to engage with them and make them sure that they use this platform. Thank you.
Thank you, Juanita. I see there are a few questions coming in over a chat function, but just being mindful of the time, I want to let participants know that we're taking note of the questions and we're treating this session as the beginning of a broader conversation. And we're planning on future sessions and building the community around this topic. So we're going to take note of the questions and definitely get back to you via alternative ways. So being mindful of the time, I think it's time to take us to the closing of this event. I would like to thank, most importantly, our panelists for finding time to join us today and recognizing the importance of this topic. I would like to thank CMI, CyberPeace Institute, and MSU colleagues, along with Dr. Camino Kavanagh, for their time and hard work dedicated for the development of this platform. A big thanks to several colleagues within mediation and cybersecurity communities who joined us in the verification process of the platform last summer. It helped us to substantially increase the content and its quality. Also, many thanks to Carolina Rodriguez and her team at Delucidar for all the graphic support, as well as Wall Learning team for hosting the platform. And finally, many thanks for you who joined us today to listen to our panelists and see what this platform is about. We hope that you sign up, you enjoy the experience, and spread the word within your communities. And going forward, as mentioned, we continue to intend to develop our knowledge and develop the platform to keep it sustainable, keep it alive and relevant. And we'll look forward to engaging with mediation and cybersecurity experts and continuing this work. Many thanks, and see you next time.